let's kick off with some of the corporate news out in South Africa today. ArcelorMital, dismal results, but I found it quite interesting that they're looking at iron ore assets, renegotiating with Kumba Iron Ore, market not liking it, down 3% for the day.
That's a terrible stock. I mean, the only people that can own it are those that are prepared to look through, the cycle. But I hate the way that they price steel down here at the southern tip of Africa at the import parity price. But what you're going to do about it? I mean, import parity pricing is the way the whole economy works. They've got their iron ore here and they've got this sweetheart deal, although it's not as sweet as it used to be, blah, blah, blah. Getting into mining, that sounds like madness to me. But remember, this is a company which is a small but profitable part of this global metal empire. And all they're interested in is profit maximization. But now government has got them in their, kind of hair sights. I don't know how this thing's going to pan out. Obviously, I love Kumba, but ArcelorMital, I can't understand why you'd want to own that one.
Okay, let's move on to Massmart Walmart. We've got quite a bit of news flow out there. The union's making quite a bit of noise. And then it just takes me back to some of the comments made by CEO of ShopRite, Whitey Basson. Two main products that could be at risk is milk and long life milk and
really?
Yes,
yeah?
and
at
pasta.
Risk.
And pasta.
Yes.
And we could actually see if Walmart starts
I could do without both of those. Huh?
Yes, actually so could I. They're not very good for you. If Walmart starts importing pasta, it means that a pasta factory in South Africa could go out of business because then ShopRite and all the other retailers will be forced to buy the cheaper products that will be imported.
And this would be a problem, why?
Because jobs will be lost.
Oh, like, 150 at a plant. I mean, that you can't make economic decisions on that basis. I mean, that's what makes me so irritated, not at you, but at the hearing and what's going on there. I mean, Twitter is the way to follow these things. If anyone's watching, they're not on Twitter, you need your head read, because the journalist, Michael Bleeby from the Business Day, has been posting tweets from the hearing, and your information is totally up to date. But what's so disgusting and disgraceful about this whole process is that you've got lawyers representing government and the trade unions haranguing the management team. Someone's got to say it. I mean, it's kind of like we've allowed ourselves to get into this thing where national economic policy decisions are being made at the competition tribunal, which is ludicrous. The chairperson of the committee is like asking them questions about whether they can have some technical rules affecting their future procurement. It's totally nonsense. I'm just hoping that this one goes the same way as the Vodacom and other processes, when at the 11th hour there was all this kind of crazy politicized input. Because there's absolutely no doubt that if you want to run a modern economy in the modern world, you have to be open to global and foreign investment flows. Otherwise, you're like Venezuela or Zimbabwe. You've got to decide. You're one or the other.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I mean, isn't there a risk of becoming too dependent on imports? Such as, I mean, it's such a small example, but and you're saying a few hundred jobs. What if it's a few thousand? What if it's a domino effect that we do see? And it could be
you can't go down that route, because the minute you go down that route, then you're dealing with like John Forster economics from the 1970s, where you want a motor industry, so you put a tariff in place. You want like a pasta business to be here and to survive. You've got to allow the prices to set where economic activity happens. If importing is the way to go, the net benefit for the economy completely outweighs the marginal. And who even manages it? I mean, who decides? Now, what do you have, a pasta czar that sits somewhere in an office in Pretoria deciding whether or not that product should be imported or defended locally? No. You've got to just go with it. I know I'm sounding like a neoconservative, but in truth, there's only one way to run economies in the modern era, and that's the way to do it.
Let's turn our attention to Tencent.
She said dubiously.
Yes, I will do more research. I can find you on that. Of course, I'm the devil's advocate here for Paul. First quarter net profit 2.87 billion yuan versus 2.34 billion, and that's a rise of 61%.
Everything is big in China.
Yeah, on the net profits side, gaming. It's the most valuable internet company in China. It's something we've spoken about before, and it's one of the reasons that Naspers is such a loved stock.
Absolutely, because Tencent listed in Hong Kong owns 35%. So when it goes up, then we see the whole thing. What is interesting for me is a very powerful company, Tencent. It's kind of like a cross between Zynga and Mixit, and it's social networking, but it's games and it's avatars and all the rest of it. Quite a tricky one to understand, but I think the takeaway point you've got to note here is that globally there's a lot of interest in these social media businesses. I mean, Groupon, which was formed only 18 months ago and is now looking at an IPO at a $15 billion valuation. Our thesis on this is that if Facebook comes to the market, if Groupon comes to the market, LinkedIn is coming to the market now, if Twitter does something, then a business like Tencent, with the number of users it's got, the revenues and the profitability that it's got, is going to be worth a lot more.
And Naspers not really responded to the news today, only up 0.18%, but Tencent did say second quarter growth.
But it has been firming in recent days. It was like 360, now it's 390, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing's looking fabulous.
Raj Rajaratnam has
been found guilty
and could face up to 20 years in prison.
I'm horrified by that.
I mean, insider trading story, it's been something that has been on the market for quite some time, and many stories such
totally
as this.
Disappointing, because insider trading is the only thing that makes the market fun. So the fact that he is going to get chowed down and sent to prison, that's terrible, terrible news for traders everywhere.
Okay, Paul. I'm sure
seriously,
shouldn't justice prevail and the good of all
It's impossible.
mankind?
He's never going to get a free trial. I think it's a conspiracy against fat people. He's an enormous obese guy. The chances of a jury giving him a fair trial, it was never going to happen.
Paul, what is your joke of the day? Was that your joke of the day? Because I didn't find it very funny, to be honest with you.
No, the joke of the day is apparently that there is 1 in 5 Italian office workers, not Italian, in Rome, have taken the day off. And the question is why. It turns out that there's a guy called Raffaele Bendandi who predicts the occurrence of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions through the planets. Now, you'd think that in a country like Italy, a modern, sophisticated society, that would be totally nonsense. But apparently this guy predicted a major earthquake in the Rome area would strike, on the day today, which is what, like the 11th of May, 2011?
Exactly, 11th of May.
And apparently 1/5 of the office workers in Rome have taken the day off. I mean, that is just nuts.
I think it's probably an excuse to take the day off.
So what happens if it doesn't happen, or when it doesn't happen, I should say?
You just slept in bed all day and
Oh, yeah,
had a longer siesta than normal.